Welcome to G.I. Joe Chronicles, Outpost Edition.
I trust your mission was equally well executed.
I want a stone cold righteous attention.
Militarily speaking, it's only fair to say that Cobra Commander is a world-class buffoon.
Hello, troops. I am Jim Meal, also known as Jim the Joe Junkie, and welcome to G.I. Joe Chronicles Outpost Episode 16, where we chronologically discuss the toys, comics, cartoons, and many other aspects of G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero, which is my favorite pop culture subject. Without getting too bogged down in the details, just my co-hosts and I having a conversation and reminiscing. And of course, that means that I'm not alone. Joining me today is Jarrod, Alberich, the yard sale artist, aka Death Probe. Thanks for once again returning to the Outpost, Jarrod, so that we can discuss some great action figures and vehicles.
Well, you know, I'm excited to be here. I love it here. And I have a question for you, Jim.
What's that?
Since last we met, have you been on any special missions, which I think might include since last we met?
Which was less than a week ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. But the script says you get to share your secret mission, so you do that, and we'll see what happens.
Well, as you alluded to, I met some weird guy in Shepherdsville, Kentucky at a toy show and had dinner with him and my dad and my brother. And then we bought a bunch of toys and then we left. Do you have anything like that?
I met a weird guy with his brother and his father. Shepherdsville, Kentucky, a toy show, bought some stuff, and we left. So, yeah, my special mission is pretty much, I think, your special mission. And that we just got back from the Shepherdsville Toy Show. And I just want your listeners to know the invaluable asset that is Jim Meal. Because I have a little list on my phone of the Joes that I need, quote unquote, need, the ones I'm missing. And, you know, I'm not a high grade collector. I don't mind them loose. I don't mind a broken thumb. Heck, I'll even take a broken crotch. I've had my crotch broken many times. But
that's kind of personal, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got distracted. Anyway, I don't have any pictures on the phone. And I know a lot of these Joes, but especially as it goes on, or if it's some sort of obscure vehicle driver, I don't remember. There was a couple times where I'd like just show Jim the list and then show him a bucket of G.I. Joes and be like, what's in here that I need? You need this one and you need this one. Invaluable asset, Jim the Joe Junkie.
Well, that's because I'm cheap too, and I can spot the $5 ones pretty easily too.
Yes, well, you were a big help, as was your brother. If he's listening, shout out to George, and he was very helpful as well.
Yeah, we had a good time. I picked up quite a few good things, some vehicles I was looking for, and some figures too. I picked up classified Xandar. Did you see those 3D printed, the Outpost and the Hydro sled?
You took me over there and showed me the 3D printed ones. Those were really neat. Yeah, they were. It's kind of funny in the timing because I want to say your latest Outpost, we were talking about some of those smaller sets, and then see them 3D printed for that scale was really cool. My big win, just for the listeners out there, sweet spot is when the Venn diagrams cross over, and for me, it's the Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat Joe figures, and I was able to fill a couple more holes of that collection, and that made me really happy.
Yeah, there was more than Joe stuff there. I was surprised at the amount of 12-inch Joe, I guess. I know it was originally a 12-inch Joe show, but I was surprised. I guess I shouldn't have been. Yeah,
there was like a lady who had sort of a quote unquote girls toy booth, and it had like a lot of Care Bear and stuff. And I mean, it was just neat to see all that 80s nostalgia, regardless of the toy brand. We saw Centurions, which was cool, and Street Sharks. You know, we could go on and on, but it was a good time.
Enough of our trip to Shepherdsville and Winterfest. Is there somebody creeping in the background back there, Jarrod? Or is it just me?
Well, you're always creeping in the background. But here's the thing. To get to your secret location today, I took the entrance through the Chaplains Assistant Motorpool, and I think I was spotted, and I think somebody followed me.
Would that be Gary?
This guy I know. He's been on G.I. Joe Chronicles with me and Pat a few times. Yeah, it's Gary V, and we do love us some Gary V. So welcome to Jim's secret headquarters.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to the Outpost.
Thanks for coming. And now that Jarrod and I have been yakking back and forth a little bit here, and I'm sure you've covered it on your show quite a bit, what was your origin story? And have you been on any special missions lately?
Well, my origin story is like a lot of millennials / Gen Xers. I'm an older millennial / younger Gen Xer. Was the cartoon and the toys. The toys, I was that Christmas of the launch of like that 1985 Murderers Row year. And, watched the TV show before school every day. That sold me on G.I. Joe. And then, got a little bit older, faded away. And then 1991, it was the comic books. Next thing you know, it's the comic books that brought me back and kept me in G.I. Joe from 1991 till today.
Very similar to a lot of us. And actually, when they started producing Devil's Due, that's what got me back into the comic book store. I'd been gone for 5 years. It was like once the Marvel run stopped, I didn't go to any comic stores. And then Devil's Due started, and 6 years later, I was back collecting regular other comics too. So
somewhere there was like a board meeting at Devil's Due, and Josh Blaylock was standing in the front of 8 or 10 guys at a table. And then up on the screen had a picture of Jim, and like, how do we get this guy back into the comic shop? That was the main goal. They were like, how do we get this guy? And then they launched it. And what a great show. And I definitely can recommend a podcast where people can listen to that.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to me. I was filling in my back issues of the original Marvel run, and I was going to all these different comic shops in my area. And then that's when I discovered, I walked in, there's a new G.I. Joe comic book. Oh my gosh, I must buy it.
Yeah, I found that Devil's Due one by accident as well. I was going to a tech center or a school, and I had time to kill between work and school, and I stopped in the comic book store, and there it was. So,
was it number one, or did you get? Oh wow, good timing.
It was number one. Thank you, Gary, and welcome to the Outpost. Thanks for putting up with our shenanigans. This toy episode is going to be a leveling episode in an attempt, to keep the toys and comics somewhat in the same year, same time frame. As I've learned since starting the Outpost podcast, as well as more experienced individuals have tried to tell me that I shouldn't rush through the content.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. So we will be breaking up the toys and comic episodes more than we have been. So with the introduction and fine print out of the way, Jarrod, how about getting us started on our first segment that we call That Figures?
It's here, the G.I. Joe collection. G.I. Joe from Hasbro.
Not a problem. Okay, we're going to discuss the G.I. Joe and Cobra sub-teams chronologically from 1990 to 1992, with the exception of Ninja Force. These will be included when we cover the sub-teams from 93 to 94. We're going to cover the figures and vehicles of these sub-teams, but we want to focus more on the theme style and overall aesthetic of the sub-team, and of course, memories that we have of these sub-teams. Because we will go into the details. We will discuss the associated year that the figures and vehicles were released in. After we discuss each sub-team, each of us will discuss our top 3 or 5 figures, vehicle. We'll give you our tops. Depending on the size of the team, this should be all figures or all vehicles or a combination of figures and you know what? It'll make sense. I swear it'll make sense when we get there, ladies and gentlemen.
This is an action film face-off. We don't keep track of that stuff, okay?
Yeah. Just roll with us on this, people. All right. Then after we've covered all the sub-teams, we're going to each rank in order from least favorite to most favorite of sub-teams overall that get discussed today. There's a lot of ranking. There's numbers. There's figures. There's vehicles. There's Gary V. There's wittiness, some charm, a little gas, and we'll get there. But let's get to the first sub-team. And that's brought to you by Jim.
Thank you, Jarrod. So the first sub-team we're going to discuss is from 1990, and that is Sky Patrol.
Here comes Sky Patrol, and no one's tougher than the Sky Patrol Havoc, the Blazing Skyhawk, Sky Shark, and Sky Raven.
Command of the air is critical in determining the outcome of a battle. Sky Patrol, G.I. Joe's elite 6-man airborne unit, uses stealth technology and sophisticated laser weaponry to clear the sky of Cobra's aerial assault crafts. Released in 1990, the sub-team consisted of 6 figures made up of all repainted body parts, but new head sculpts. There were also 4 repainted vehicles, repainted in quotations, recoded.
Chromed out, maybe?
There you go. Vehicles that were previously released. So, the Sky Patrol figures were Airborne V2, Airwave, Altitude, Drop Zone, Skydive, and Static Line. And the vehicles were the Sky Havoc, Skyhawk, Sky Raven, and Sky Shark. Very original with the Sky part. I mean, one of them they didn't even have to rename the Skyhawk. That was already a Skyhawk.
I wish they would have called it the Skyhawk.
So, to get the discussion started, Gary, what are some of your just general thoughts of Sky Patrol? Are there some that really jump out to you? And when did you realize that they were going to be really expensive to collect?
Oh, geez. Really expensive. Keyword. It really came down to when collectors coming back into the action figure game. I was working my way through the 80s, and then it's like, oh, yeah, I'll get to the 90s. And, I just finished putting together Night Force. And I'm like, oh, what's after 1989's Night Force, which was spendy enough. And then you get to the Sky Patrol. You're like, oh, yeah, who wants that Sky Patrol junk? All chrome and everything. And then it's like, oh, nice chrome. Oh, my gosh. Sticker shock. I still haven't completed the vehicle line in my collection. Got the figures. I think overall, I really enjoy the figures. I've really enjoyed the repainted bodies. G.I. Joe molds are one of my favorite part of the toy line. They're second to none. All the detail, the ridgings and stuff that they sculpted, and getting repaints and doing some of the more gaudy characters in a more, let's say, military or earthy tone, still allows it to be realistic, fantastical, and overall for the characters, they work well as a theme. The vehicles, it's chrome. If it doesn't go, chrome it. There's some definite standouts on the vehicle side, but the figures overall, they work best as a team, in my opinion.
Go ahead, Jarrod. What do you got?
No, it's funny because Sky Patrol, just very briefly for me, is not something I'm obviously familiar with it, but I think the only Sky Patrol vehicle I've ever seen in the wild was a shark. And I was like, oh, there's a shiny shark. Today is really the day I started piecing this all together, that there's a whole thing going on with Sky Patrol. I think just because I haven't really seen these in the wild. Didn't you say these dropped in 90? So yeah, I kind of really stopped collecting, to play with in 89. I was 12 going on 13. So yeah, I really missed the boat on Sky Patrol. But yeah, I want to hear what you got to say, Jim, because you and Gary clearly have the lead on that.
What I like is Hasbro is great for this. This is probably the best reuse of parts and I think Gary mentioned the repaints, the same body parts. All they do is put a different head on some of this stuff. And the way they put them together and the way you reuse the parts, I thought was pretty good. The figures go together well. And I didn't know Sky Patrol was a thing until I was watching the Deke cartoon back in the days, because I wasn't in the toy aisle at the time. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I went to toy aisle. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to buy them. Because I was in high school at the time. You don't buy toys in high school, right? Most people don't. The vehicles, a lot of them were an upgrade from the original, in my opinion.
I have a question. Since I'm not the expert on this one, I'm going to ask more questions. I'm looking at pictures here on the interwebs, and they look great. They do look cool. Like I said, the only one I've seen is the shark in the wild. Does the chrome, does it wear over time? Does it really hold up? Because, I haven't really seen these in the wild. What's sort of the distance of time on the chrome? How's it hanging in there?
So there's two things to do with the chrome. On the vehicle side, it does tend to fade, scratch. That's very common because these were toys and kids are bashing them around. But if they were stored in the wrong conditions, I have seen the chrome flaking off. And it's a very expensive process to get them replated.
What's underneath it? Is it green? Like, let's say the Skyhawk, it was green and now it's chrome. Is it basically a chromed Skyhawk, or is it, you see what I'm saying? Like, if you chip away the chrome, is it green under there, or is it
it's more like a off-white. It's just
okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I was just wondering if they had a batch of Skyhawks laying around. They're like, let's just dip these babies in chrome, and get them out the door.
No, they did. They recast them. They plated them all, which I'm sure was not cheap on Hasbro's part. And then the other thing that I learned from Hooded Co-Commander during his reviews is the other thing special about the characters is they have special parachutes that are chrome as well. And those are incredibly fragile. And I only have one parachute, and it's never been unfolded, and I'm never unfolding it.
Okay. Anything else before we move on?
I am 98% sure that Static Line's new head mold is the black kid from the Burger King Kids Club.
Honestly, he reminded me more of the black kid from Captain Planet.
I see it. Sure.
Yep,
Sure.
Now, I do have to say, on a serious note, though, and it's something I never understood, was why they created a new character, Airborne, then they could have used the original Airborne and it would have been a perfect fit.
Wait, that's not Airborne?
No. It's V2, but it's not the same. It's not Talltree.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
This is like the other day I figured out there's a G.I. Joe character named Sky Striker and a Sky Striker. Like G.I. Joe.
It gets worse. You got Law, the Law. You got Armadillo, the Armadillo.
Yeah.
Ferret. All right. So, Gary, why don't you give us your top 5 Sky Patrol figures and vehicles?
Well, before I do this, I got to say the star of the Sky Patrol is the vehicles, in my opinion. Only really 2 of them. In order, 5 to 1. I got to go. I've always really liked Airwave. I just like the reuse of the Motor Viper's body. And I really like the colors of Altitude. And then finally, my favorite figure is Static Line. Honestly, I like his gear and it's just a cool little guy. Really, my 2 favorites is in the number 2 position, it's the Havoc, because I've wanted one since I knew it existed. And then, but by far, the Sky Raven, number 1, it's the most expensive vehicle in this group, and it's deservedly so. It's just magnificent.
All right, Jarrod, have you had enough time to go through and look at them and pick out your top 5?
The funny thing is just pulling them up, on the internet and kind of familiarizing myself with it. In the last 2 minutes, I've come to the same exact conclusions that Gary has over his years of collecting, and that the vehicles are the stars of the show. And immediately I thought that Night Raven is just incredible. That's going to be my number 1. Let's clear the decks on that. That Night Raven is fantastic. I dig the Skyhawk very much. I like the Sky Shark. Just going to put those 3 vehicles right there on the top. And then I'll toss in 2 figures, a couple of figures, never heard anybody. Just based on their design and look, I got to say the Burger King Kids Club Static Line is fantastic. I like his color scheme. I think it works really well. And then my other one, as far as just good design, is got to be Fake Airborne. So, yeah, Fake Airborne and Burger King Kids Club Static Line.
Thank you, guys. Well, I have to agree. The vehicles are the star of the show with the Sky Patrol. So I'm going to say my favorites are going to be top 5: Sky Havoc, Skyhawk, Sky Raven, Sky Shark. That means I got to pick a figure. I'm going to go with Static Line. Even though we gave him a hard time about he looks like Captain Planet's sidekick. But I do like, I believe that's Backstop's chest or upper body, but with a little bit different coloring. So I like the mold and the coloring of that figure. Whose arms are those? Is that Cobra Commander's?
No, it's a complete backstop.
Is it all Backstop?
Yeah, no, the figures themselves, the entire body, the torso, legs, arms, is from one singular figure.
So they didn't mix them between figures. It was just one figure and then change the head.
Yep.
Okay.
I was just looking at yojo.com and it's just one figure and they just changed the head.
Well, it's I guess we're convinced then, huh? Gary, with the ranking of the Sky Patrol out of the way, why don't you move us on to the next sub-team?
Okay, Captain Planet and the Planeteers. I'm sorry, the Eco Warriors.
To pollute the environment, Cobra unleashes the septic tank and evil eco-warriors. But the Joes have eco-warriors too.
The forces of nature are under attack from Cobra, and only G.I. Joe can stop them. Utilizing the most dangerous liquid toxins known to mankind, Cobra launches its most diabolical bid to contaminate the planet's fragile ecosystem and bring civilization to its knees, armed with a sophisticated anti-tox water solution that changes figures' color on contact and outfitted with special eco-suits that detect environmental contaminants. G.I. Joe moves out to clean up Cobra's act once and for all. Even now, the fate of the Earth hangs in the balance. The Eco Warriors released in 1991 and 1992, following the push for environmental awareness in the late 80s and early 1990s. So it was available for 2 years, 1991 and 1992. In 1991, for figures, you had Cesspool, Clean Sweep, Flint version 3, Ozone, Sludge Viper, and Toxos Viper version 2. In 1992, your figures were Barbecue version 2, Deep 6 version 3, and the Toxo Zombie. And there were 3 vehicles across the 2 years for the line. It was the Septic Tank, the Eco Striker, and the Toxo Lab.
Thank you, Gary. Jarrod, do you have any recollection or anything to comment about the overall Eco Warrior?
A little bit more on this one than Sky Patrol, just because I kind of got a little fascination into how G.I. Joe was changing in response to going from the top dog of the toy shelf to Ninja Turtles taking over. And I feel like there's a real Turtles influence here. And yeah, Captain Planet with the whole eco thing. But I really feel like there's a tad more Turtles influence, because you get those brighter colors, those fluorescent colors, and now slime is involved and ooze is involved. And it really feels like they were chasing turtles. And I feel like you and I have talked about this, Jim. And I think you brought up a book I think someone had written talking about that. Either that or you just made it up in a conversation we had one time, one of the two. But it was somebody from like Hasbro that was like openly admitted, yes, we were totally chasing turtles at this point. So yeah, I'm a little familiar, and I do have a few of these. I've scored some of these figures at yard sale, and they kind of be surprisingly fun. I like them a little bit just for their wackiness. And then I got to drop this personal story. I was Goodwill shopping just 2 years ago. I was visiting my brother in Washington State, and we hit up his local Goodwill. It was one of those cool ones where you like pay by the pound, where you just like get a bunch of stuff. And I found the septic tank in the bin, and I pulled it out, and I was like, what is this crazy his tank? I didn't know what it was. I was like, this is G.I. Joe. I said, this got to be from that weird eco thing. So, of course, I bought it, took it home, looked it up, and I was like, oh, okay, septic tank. And cool little, crazy colored 90. Yeah, this is Joe of the 90s. I sold it on eBay, made a little money because I don't collect vehicles. I just collect figures. But, yeah, I have a little bit more familiarity. I own some of these things, so I'm a little more excited about this one, Jim.
Yeah, I was kind of getting out of this stuff when Eco Warriors were coming through, and when I would go down the toy aisle and I look at that and go, that's not my Joe. That's not my G.I. Joe.
Yeah. It has that vibe, but Jim, let me ask you this, because I'm here to ask questions more than anything on this episode. I definitely at the time I would agree with you. I'd be like, G.I. Joe, it's that chasing turtles thing. It's gotten far afield from what we were used to. But now when you find something like that in the wild, isn't it a little exciting just because it's an oddball? Do you get that like oddball excitement, or do you still just really not like them?
No, I still pick them up. But I don't.
Yeah, I just think it's. I'm like, I find it kitschy, like kind of kitschy fun.
I have a rule: if it's cheap enough, I don't leave it behind.
Well, hell yeah.
Gary, thoughts on the Eco Warriors?
Eco Warriors were my bag. 1991. I'm 11 years old, 12 years old in 92. Yeah, sign me up. I was the target demo. I remember buying the septic tank. I remember buying it new at Caldor's with my own hard-earned money and assembling it and be like, this thing's awesome.
It is kind of cool.
everyone else that I've talked to is like, that thing is garbage. And I'm like, it was cool to me.
Hey man, I got excited when I found it in the bin at the Goodwill. I was like, this is neat.
Absolutely. I love the barbecue version too, because I had a barbecue V1 that was well loved by that point. Overall, it was like, they were cool. I mean, they were a little more expensive. The figures were a little more expensive than the main line. I bought 1992, Firefly versus an Eco Warriors character. I want to say the septic tank was like the last vehicle I bought and I assembled from the vintage line until I got to be an adult and I started buying them and assembling them as an adult.
Do you still have the original one that you bought with your hard-earned money, or did you have to sort of replace it?
Oh, I definitely had to replace it. That was probably 10 cents towards a college textbook.
Oh, okay. I probably found yours in the Goodwill bin. That was probably Gary's old one that I found.
Now, you guys collect. Do you find it harder to find these in the wild? When I say the wild, I don't mean toy shows, but I mean just in general yard sales or wherever. I don't see them very often just floating around.
I like to buy lots, like when people they're moving like a whole collection. And then because I started focusing more on the 90s, I would focus on lots with more later figures. And it's how I managed to collect some of the rare figures, because they're selling like 60 figures. And then, there's a, 1998 Vipera and, 93 Ninja Viper. You just find one with broken crotch and cracked arms. Yeah, they show up, but it's like a different era. Like the 80s was G.I. Joe dominated the toy landscape. And the 90s, they were chasing. They got left behind and they started chasing. Like, you guys are a little bit older than me. And the guys that are now liquidating, they're a little bit younger than me. Those are the people that are starting to sell. So I think you're going to start seeing more 90s stuff moving forward.
I have a lot of these figures, and they've all been found in the wild, Jim, all via yard sale. Jim, I think at the end of the day, and you know this, I'm just really talking to the audience, it really depends on you roll up on that yard sale and it's a guy Gary's age cleaning out his childhood. He just wants to get rid of it. He just had a baby, so he's getting rid of stuff for money. I think that's probably how I found these because I have a good amount and they're all yard sale acquired. They're out there. That's luck of the draw, Jim.
Yeah.
Like Gary, though, like you see, and you do this too, Jim. You see a guy who's got a Ziploc bag full of Joes. You just buy the bag, right? You just buy the bag.
Well, yeah.
and then that's where you find them in there.
Yeah. Now, I do know that I'm seeing more and more 90s carded figures coming out.
Yeah, I do see those popping up too. Because, I work on the side for a comic shop out of Montgomery, and I list stuff on eBay for them. Because people bring stuff in. Hey, I'll trade you this for these comics, so on and so forth. And carded Joe figures of this era definitely are just showing up more and more
because they overproduced in 92, 93.
A lot of them hit those clearance racks.
I was 13, 14 and I was buying Joes. I saw it. I remember cases of Dino Hunter sets at a discount store in Connecticut. Cases of this set that today is thousands of dollars sealed in box.
Yeah.
Because nobody wanted them in 94. And there's another thing, Jarrod, you probably have seen this in your comic shop, is you'll find a lot of those 90s carded figures, but the UPCs are all cut out. Because that was how you got the Joe Colton action figure. So
I've seen that.
For that promo, it wasn't flag points, it was UPC codes, because that's how Hasbro wanted to clear the overstock from the stores that bought them. Diabolical.
All right. Back to the Eco Warriors. I didn't get into these. I remember seeing him in the comics because I was still buying the comics at the time, like Barbecue. I remember seeing him in there. And then they had a whole 2 or 3 episode arc introducing the Eco Warriors with the triplicate ones, 3 stories in one with Ninja Force. Now, I do have to say, looking back, as much as I didn't like the figures in the 90s, some of these molds and stuff are pretty cool. I have to admit, getting my old man glasses off and looking at them, some of these molds are pretty cool. I really like Ozone, the Sludge Viper, the Toxo Zombie. Those are pretty unique and pretty neat back in the day. So anything else before we rank them? Jarrod, why don't you go first? Rank your top 5.
All right. Again, I have a lot of these figures, so they might all actually be figures because I dig Cesspool, who actually got a little love in the Devil's Due comic. They used him a little bit. I dig him for some reason that I can't explain. I dig Flint version 3. Again, I just like wacky versions of things, and I like the Flint version 3 with his green suit for some reason. I can't explain it. And then I really dig, and I don't know that I have any of these 3. I dig the Barbecue, the Deep Six, and the Toxo Zombie. I like all 3 of the 90. Was it 2? Yeah, 92s. Especially Toxo Zombie. Like, I didn't do official ranking with Toxo Zombie's probably at 1. But I do want to throw in the Septic Tank just because it was so fun to find it just 2 years ago. And I didn't know exactly what I knew it was Joe. And just like going on that discovery hunt was fun for me. So just an honorable mention to the Septic Tank.
Now, Gary, before you rank yours, weren't there some couple characters that were going to be Eco Warriors? They put them into the Battle Corps later. It wasn't Outback going to be one?
Yes. I think Leatherneck may have been.
Maybe.
Definitely Outback.
There were plans to go to 93, and they didn't sell, and they just stopped. I know Outback was, and I think you're right. Was it the Banana Pants or the Giraffe Pants? Leatherneck. So, Gary, what's your top 5?
Top 5. So I can definitely tell you my number 1. My number 1 is the Toxo Zombie. It's the first zombie in G.I. Joe. It is an amazing sculpt. The fact that they took the Toxo Viper sculpt and then modified it to make the zombie, awesome. That's number 1. Number 2 is the Septic Tank because the childhood memories. Then the next 3 are kind of little mixed match that can go either way. I do like the Sludge Viper. I do like Ozone, but maybe number 3 really would be Cesspool because he had a presence in the G.I. Joe comic in the 90s. He had a presence in the Devil's Due. He was a good character. He's an impressive sculpt. And so those are my top 5.
All right. My top 5 are going to be mostly troop builders. So I'm in no particular order. I'm going to go with the Toxo Viper, V2, Sludge Viper, and then probably Ozone, Clean Sweep, and Toxo Zombie number 1.
We all like that zombie.
That
man.
zombie, I'm telling you. Okay, thanks, guys. Jarrod, I believe you're up next.
Yes, I am, and I'm going to regale you with the tale of Sonic Fighters, Supersonic Fighters, and Talking Battle Commanders.
New G.I. Joe Talking Battle Commanders. Each says 3 different battle commands.
Cover! Be like cover! Yo, yo!
And an all-new combat sound.
These specially trained frontline fighters blast into action equipped with a devastating arsenal of battle-ready weapons. Released in 1991 and 1992, these sub-teams consisted of figures that had supersized backpacks that made battle sounds and commands. So here's your starting lineup for these Supersonic, Sonic, and the noise-making ones. All right, in 1991, the figures, you have Dial Tone version 3, Dodger version 2, Lamprey version 2, Law version 2, Tunnel Rat version 3, Viper version 3. In 1992, you have Jim the Joe Junkie's favorite, Lieutenant Falcon version 2, Major Blood version 2. He's the one you should buy for you. It's a Major Blood poetry joke. Psych Out version 3, Road Pig version 2, Rock and Roll version 3, Zap version 2. And then your Talking Battle Commanders consist of Cobra Commander version 5, General Hawk version 2, Overkill, Stalker version 3. There was 2 vehicles made specifically for this sub-team, the Desert Apache and Fort America. Back to you, Jim.
Thank you, Jarrod. Gary, I'm sure you had some of these because this was probably your time frame. And I thought when they were coming out, they were a little, I don't need noise with my G.I. Joe. But same thing as I said with the Sky Patrol. Different colors kind of sets that mold off a little bit different, makes things pop a little bit. So some of these I like better than the original version figures. Gary, what do you think?
For the most part, many of these are decent repaints. There are a couple new sculpts in this. Psych Out is the first one that jumps out. Major Blood, he finally got a right elbow. I remember these at the Navy PX in New London, Connecticut. And I remember not being able to get them because they were too expensive. My mom would just not give me that extra $1. I remember pushing the back of the package to get them to make the noise inside the package very vividly.
Jarrod, what do you think?
This is another sub-team that I discovered later in life. I remember being at a yard sale, probably circa early 2000s. And the first one I found was Stalker with the big backpack. I was kind of like, he was like, the big backpack kind of ridiculous, but I was like, it's Stalker. Hey, I'm a big Stalker fan. So it was just like, oh, this is a Stalker that I don't have, which of course made me want to go look them up and see what other ones they were. So I was, solely focused on the big backpack versions, and I found out about Cobra Commander and Hawk. And what I'm finding out on this show is that Overkill, which is a character that gets used as well, this is first figure is a big backpack figure, and I think that's pretty interesting. And then as time went on, through yard sales here and there, I found a couple of the other ones with the repaints, and like you said, I'm kind of always impressed with the repaints on these. Like, I really like the Dial Tone and the Falcon especially, and there's a lot to like here. So this is a little more fun, kind of bonus gold, if you will, things that I wasn't collecting when I was a kid anymore, finding later in life, and just kind of exciting to see these new versions.
Now, you've got something that you were showing off before the show that kind of relates to this sub-team. What do you got there?
Stalker on the card.
Stalker on the card. And by far the best phrase that he yells is, "Let's party."
You can't hear it, can you?
Just barely. He's like, let's party. He's like, there's a snake in my boot.
All right. Anything before we rank these somewhat surprisingly better figures?
I want to say, you know what was a sin? Law did not come with Order. So he's not on my list because Order belongs with Law.
Yeah,
right there.
It is. It is. All right. I'm going to go first on my ranking. I am going to go no particular order except for number 1 for me. I'm going to go with, I like the Dial Tone, Stalker, Viper. I like the Zap was another one that was a new mold. I liked him. And I think Falcon's 5, correct? Yep. There you go. Gary, what's your top 5?
I happen to like the Major Blood in this. I also like Overkill as a new character, and the backpack fits perfectly. I think the Viper, super solid. I like to think of him like a Crimson Viper, put him with my Crimson Guard. And, you can't go wrong really with Stalker. I think it's a great new mold of Stalker. It is the 3 3/4 inch of the 12-inch Hall of Fame figure. Also another prominent costume during the comic book. But my favorite of this group is Lieutenant Falcon. I just really dig that new camo scheme he had. Oh, I can honestly say the Desert Apache absolutely stinks. It's
I noticed,
so undersized.
Does it? Because it looks great on the website.
The figures physically do not fit inside that helicopter.
Oh, okay. That
It
would
was-
explain one of the
It
funnier
was from
pictures.
another toy line.
Yes.
That's funny you say that, because when I saw it on the picture on the internet, first of all, I thought it was awesome. Then I saw it had one of those handles that goes in the back, and I was like, hey, there was another toy line that did handle in the back. I had some of the jets when I was a kid. All coming together now. Okay, that's why nobody talks about it, because when I saw the box art, I was like, oh, that's cool. But apparently it's not. The Fort America thing was kind of neat, by the way.
All
Fort
right.
America's underrated. I mean, think about it. If the Apache was the same size as the Dragonfly, oh,
Yeah, that'd be sweet. That would be like super, super sweet.
All right. Jarrod, that leaves you.
It does leave me, and I'm going to go Stalker just because I'm a big fan. I'm not so sure about the huge, bulky backpack, but, I get what it's going to be. And then I'm going to go with that dial tone. I dig that a lot. I'm going to go with the Falcon, the Major Blood, and then my fifth spot. There's a lot to pick from. I kind of dig Tunnel Rat version 3.
Those are all good picks. Okay. Moving on to our next one, which is the Air Commandos.
The battle for the Plasmatox takes to the skies with Joe and Cobra Air Commandos, soaring gliders that can fly up to 30 feet.
Rule the skies with a fist of iron with Air Commandos. Highly trained daredevil pilots who fear no one. Launch these aerodynamic, high-speed gliders into battle and watch them swoop and dive over hostile territory, leveling enemy forces with their pivoting submachine guns. Get ready for takeoff. The Air Commandos were released in 1991 and 92, and not sure if the glider was packed in with the figure or the figure was packed in with the glider, but this sub-team included 5 new characters and 1 new version of an old favorite. Those figures are Cloudburst, Night Vulture, Sky Creeper, Skymate, Spirit V3, and Air Devil. Similar Zartan with the swamp skier, the figure come with the chameleon, or the chameleon come with Zartan, or Serpentor, or Overlord, or whatever.
Wait. Sir, what?
Serpentor.
All right, okay. I'm so used to podcasting with this other guy.
Serpator. All right. The concept of these are much better than the gliders from 83.
I will debate you on that.
Yeah. Well, concept.
Oh, okay. Oh, the concept.
Because they hold up a lot
Durability.
better. Durability is better than the one in 83.
That's fair.
Now, again, some of these missed my radar because I was not collecting figures at the time. I was moving between Michigan and Indiana and girls and all kinds of stuff. But looking back, some of these sculpts are pretty neat. Jarrod, what do you think of these? Have you come across these before, or are these all new to you?
Yeah, I've found 1 or 2 of these in my adventures. For some reason, I just am not big on the gliders. They're okay, but I just really like the look of the old 83s a lot. And these, I don't know, it almost feels like they found some other toy line that made a neat glider, and that may have happened for all I know. And they're just like, let's put Joes with these, and make these Joe gliders. There's something aesthetically about them that doesn't feel very G.I. Joe-y. Of course, I know this is 91, 92, and we can say that about a lot of things, right? The G.I. Joe toy line. But I do agree the figures are of a neat design, so there's not many of them, but yeah, I'm certain we're going to talk about a few.
Gary, what do you got?
I think these are cooler than what they should have been. I can say this, the gliders do hold up, but they were considered disposable. It's very hard for me to find gliders in the wild. The only one that I have that's in decent shape is Skymate's. And even then, one of the guns is just barely hanging on. So I had to put a little drop of super glue to get it back up. You know, the figures, they show up, but like a lot of times those figures are beat up as well. Because remember, they were designed to get
They were getting chucked across the room and out to the road.
I've only come across a few of these. Now, I do have to say that I did have the Daredevil in my possession at one time. I had his visor with him. I picked him up for $5. And when I sold him on eBay for $60, I was okay with letting him go.
It's a good profit margin.
Yeah. I did not have the glider, so I'm like, okay. But then I'm looking like, oh yeah, I'll get rid of that. So Jarrod, keep your eye out. Find Daredevil, or even a couple of these guys have visors too. Does Skymate have one?
Cloudburst has a visor.
Cloudburst, yeah.
Skymate has a bow and a boomerang.
Good luck.
Makes perfect sense.
Well, Skymate is the only G.I. Joe from Australia.
I thought
so he had to come with a boomerang. It all comes together.
Rakondo just looks like he came from Australia.
Outback sounds like he should have came from
Yes. So again, I agree with Gary. These were, how'd you put that? These were cooler than they should have been. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So let's rank them if we don't have anything else. Gary, I'm going to let you go first.
Okay, so top 3, I got to go Cloudburst, Spirit, version 3, and Skymate, number 1. Easy.
Jarrod, top 3.
I'm going to go Night Vulture. I will also throw in Skymate because I think he's the only one I own out of all these. And Spirit, version 3.
I'm going to go Night Vulture, Sky Creeper, and Spirit, version 3.
Nobody picked Matt Murdock, a.k.a. Daredevil.
That's Daredevil.
Oh, my bad.
All right. If there's nothing else, I think you're up next, Gary.
There's an enemy more dangerous than Cobra, polluting our streets with drugs. But who can stop this evil headman and his headhunters? Let's take out this trash! It's the G.I. Joe Drug Elimination Force.
The DEF, the Drug Elimination Force. Drug-fighting G.I. Joes battle the headman and his gang of drug thugs for control of Main Street, USA. Each drug enforcement agent and villain utilizes a battle flash weapon to elevate this cancerous conflict to new heights of danger. This was another subteam that was created by Hasbro to support a popular social movement, the War on Drugs. I'm sure Nancy Reagan approved. The DEF members are Bulletproof, Cutter, version 2, the Headhunters, the Headman, the head of the Headhunters, Mutt and Junkyard, version 3, and Shockwave, V3.
Thank you, Gary. When I was doing the prep for this and the outline, I forgot that these came with the spark weapons. I read that description and I'm like, what are they talking about? And then I looked them up and I was like, oh, that's right. They had the sparking inside the translucent plastic. Is that what those were?
Yeah. You want to know what's even worse, Jim? I had those weapons and I didn't know they lit up for years.
So you were ahead of the curve and didn't read the directions.
Training for marriage early on.
Well, was it on there?
It was on the package.
It was on the package, but did it tell you how to do it?
Yeah, you just push a button.
Okay.
Actually, it's keyed in with the spring launcher.
Okay.
You do the spring launcher, it lights, and then it shoots the projectile.
Again, this is one where I was buying the comics, but didn't really have any interest in the toys, so the toys passed me by. There are some good new versions of classic characters in here, I think. A couple of them, and they'll be on my top 3. Jarrod, you got any thoughts on the DEF?
I do have thoughts on the DEF. Later on, after Tiger Force, they'd make Leopard Force and put in the DEF with Leopard Force with that Def Leopard Force. No?
That too poor cat.
No, seriously, though, I, much like everything else we've talked about here tonight, was kind of unaware of it at the time, discovered it later. Let me tell you when I discovered the DEF back in July, like this last July. So,
wow.
I'm doing Infinity Con in Tallahassee, where our podcasting friend, the Irredeemable Shag, lives. And he and I were able to go look around a little bit, I think right before the show floor opened. And there was a guy just selling random toys, I think maybe from his closet or something, just bric-a-brac of toys on a 6-foot table. And he had these 6 figures. And I was looking at them and I was like, I know these were new versions and I was familiar with most of them. I was like, oh yeah, I think these are repaints mostly. And I was like, I don't know if I have these. And he goes, this is the DEF. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, it was like an anti-drug G.I. Joe team from the 90s. And I was like, oh, that would explain why I don't remember, because I kind of was out by the 90s. And I purchased all 6 of them from him for $35. And I think that's a pretty good deal, but you'd have to tell me, Jim or Gary.
Now, were they complete?
No, they're just
okay.
They're just loose, good shape, but just the figure. And that's how I collect them. So I was thinking $5 a figure, a little more because it was $35. And I was thinking, for guys I don't have, that seems pretty fair. And so anyway, I was happy with it. I don't know if here's what he told me. Of course, he's the guy selling it. He said the DEF's not super valuable. He goes, but I feel like it's obscure enough that it's probably going to go up in value as time goes on. And I was like, that made sense to me. So I bought them.
Gary, you mentioned that earlier. I think that's a true statement because you got people that are growing up on it, getting rid of it, but you also got people, it's that shift where the people that are collecting in the 90s are getting that income that they can go back and buy their childhood. So I think it's that shift.
It's like when I first started yard selling, I wouldn't give a second look at Power Rangers. And now people are starting to pay for Power Rangers because, that age group now has good jobs. Yeah,
and then some of that Power Ranger stuff is crazy expensive. I'm like, you telling me you're going to pay that much money for a little sword? Okay. Gary, what do you think?
This was one sub-team I really wasn't interested in at the time. The biggest memory I have of this is that Deke episode where Sonic Fighter's Falcon ingests the drug Spark from the Headman and his Headhunters. That's really the biggest memory. They were part of the Triptych and Diptych storylines, 123 of Marvel, but really not super memorable. The only good thing is I like the fact that the Headman and his Headhunters was another villainous faction for G.I. Joe to fight. And I figured they were probably more in line against the Dreadnoks than anything else.
Yeah, when they were introduced in the comic, the Headman and the Headhunters and all that stuff, I thought, another, like you said, another villain. And really they didn't do a whole lot with it. Now, didn't Devils do, or was it IDW did some stuff with it? They did a storyline. Was it Special Missions?
He hasn't shown up yet in any of our Devils Do coverage, but I want to say I first became aware of him around that time. Somebody somewhere used him.
Yeah. I think it might have been a one-off story the Devils Do used him in.
Let me throw in something else real quick. One thing that impressed me about this, the anti-drug team, what does DEF stand for again?
Drug Elimination Force.
There you go. What impressed me is that I can see the actual thought behind it from Hasbro. You have Mutton Junkyard, which makes sense with a drug-sniffing dog. So I find that one particularly good. Shockwave, because he was always primo law enforcement guy, right? He's like a SWAT guy. So that makes a lot of sense. Of course, Bulletproof was a new character. But Cutter, especially being Coast Guard, because Coast Guard does more drug interdiction than any other branch of service. Now, probably the cops probably do the most, but when I'm talking branch of service stuff, Coast Guard is on the front line of that. Had a buddy of mine who was in the Coast Guard and then transitioned in the Air Force, and dude had already been shot twice as a Coast Guard guy because of drug boats that they had stopped. So I think this is a super impressive. Hasbro did their homework and picked really smart characters for this. It's not like they just grabbed some guys out of a hat and said, oh, this is the drug force. I'm impressed with their selection.
Yeah, I agree with that and on the positive, Mutt comes with Junkyard.
100%. Yes.
Law didn't come with Order. All right.
Again, bag of.
I was looking. No vehicles?
No vehicles.
Okay. I thought I'd want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Now, wasn't there, the Shark 9000 or whatever was later that came with Cutter, and it was not part of DEF.
This is where you could also say that maybe the DEF was planned for also later on, and then it just got cut, and then those characters got moved into Battle Corps. Actually, I do have an honorable mention for my top 3, and I'm going to bring it in.
So, with that, why don't you give your top 3?
Honorable mention is the Headhunter Stormtrooper is my honorable mention. And
that was what? That was 93 or 94, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all black. He has spikes. just totally good. And then in the number 3 position, I have the Headman, because he's just so Miami Vice evil with that pinstripe suit and the fedora, the goatee with the soul patch and the ponytail. It's Miami Vice. I love it. Then, of course, you got to have your army builder, the Headhunters. What's Headman without his Headhunters? And then my number 1 figure is Bulletproof. Even without the gimmick, he's just a solid figure. Microphone, backpack, real weapon. So he's my number 1.
All right. Jarrod, what do you got?
I still have a lot of excitement around this since these are recent acquisitions for me. So I'm just going to break the rules and rank them from 6 to 1. The number 6 spot, we've got the Troop Builder one. What's his name? Headhunters. And he's still cool. It's Headhunters. And then I like the Mutt and Junkyard. Then I like Bulletproof, Headman, Shockwave version 3. I think it's neat to see him with his mask off, a little more relaxed. And I believe that leaves Cutter. I'm still very enthusiastic about this team because I just discovered them a few months ago in their recent additions to my collection. But I got to agree with Gary. I don't remember where I ranked him, but I think Bulletproof is a neat new character. He's almost like a return to form, Jim. And now I'm more talking to you, Jim, how things got crazy with Eco Warriors and all that. And he looks more like a soldier. He looks more like he could have been in 85 easily in 85.
At least 86 or 87. But yeah, I agree.
Headman is kind of bonkers as hell, but he's bonkers as hell in that fun way.
Yeah. My top 3, because I'm not going to be like Jarrod and go rogue. So I'm going to do 3. I'm going to go with the Headhunters because I like my troop builders, Mutt and Junkyard, and Bulletproof.
Nice. Good choices.
Bulletproof was on all 3 of ours because, Jarrod picked all 6.
Well, I did. I had my enthusiasm was too high, and I apologize.
He's high on the DEF figure.
Hey. I feel like we should have an Orsted appearance at this time of the show.
He is dipping into their
Sassafras.
Yeah, there you go.
He's dipping into the evidence locker at the DEF, Hey guys, I'm just here to do a little inventory, man. It's all about the paperwork.
All right. Now that we've covered all the sub-teams from 90 to 92, with the exception of Ninja Force, let's rank from our least favorite to our most favorite. And to recap, these are the ones that we covered today. So we have Sky Patrol, Eco Warriors, Sonic Fighters, Supersonic Fighters, and Talking Commanders, all bunched together, Air Commandos, and the DEF. Gary, since you're the second guest, you're the special guest. Why do you go first?
Okay, from the guest sub-team, I guess I'll start off with number 5. Man, it's really hard. I got to go with Air Commandos as number 5, only because it's not a large set. They're all drivers. And then really, it's just hard. It's just, I guess DEF is number 4. The Eco Warriors is number 3. The Sonic Fighters, number 2, because there's just so many characters. And then number 1, Sky Patrol, because they just had those chrome, awesome vehicles. And, you can't go wrong with vehicles in my mind.
I agree. I'm more of a vehicle guy than a figure guy, so... Jarrod, you need me to go next, or you good?
I'm good. I'm ready to do this. In the bottom slot, I'm going to say Air Commandos, like Gary did. They're okay, but they don't excite me a whole heck of a lot. And right above them, I will go Eco Warriors, which my love for them has grown more over the years. And then I will go at number 3, Sonic Fighters. Number 2, the DEF, because I have that recency enthusiasm still from finding those guys. And then number 1, exclusively based on awesome vehicles, is going to be Sky Patrol. I mean, it's just, you can't beat a chromed out Night Raven. Or I'm sure it was called the Sky Raven, or the Sky Night Raven, or the Night Sky Raven, or something like that.
Just Sky Raven. Okay. From 5 to 1, 5 is going to be Eco Warriors. 4, Air Commandos. 3, the Sonic Fighters. Yeah, Sonic Fighters.
That's why I stuck to Sonic Fighters or DEF. They're both kind of cool.
And then the DEF and number 1, Sky Patrol, because as you guys stated, the vehicles are really cool.
Primo vehicles.
Yes. So Gary, did you say you have all the Sky Patrol vehicles? Or are you?
No, I only have the Sky Shark and the Sky Hawk.
All I have is the Sky Hawk. So, and I picked that up right when I first started recollecting again. I have not bit on any of the rest yet. So,
hey, I got a question just to make your show longer.
I'm used to it.
If you could take any other aviation vehicle from the line and chrome it out, and I mean, I know they eventually did the Sky Striker because I saw that online, and you can pick that if you want, but like any other air-based vehicle and chrome it out to put it in that line, and I've already got one in mind. I think I would probably do the Rattler. Might look kind of cool in that line. And Gary, do you have a thought on another air vehicle you'd chrome out?
I have two. The one I have seen done before, the Conquest.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And then the other one is the X-Wing chopper.
Yeah. What is that thing called? Oh, isn't Windmill the pilot of that?
Yeah, Windmill.
Yeah.
Jim,
Skystorm.
Skystorm
X-Wing chopper.
So he'd have the Skystorm. What about you, Jim? What do you think?
Now, does it have to be air-based?
I guess not. Although I was just thinking a chromed out Tomahawk would look cool too. But anyway,
that would be cool. So I'm going to be like Gary. I'm going to go rogue, and I'm going to pick two. First one would be the Mud Fighter,
nice
prop-driven plane with all the bombs on it.
It's got a big prop on the back.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And a ground-based one would be the Demon, Iron Grenadier Demon, with all those sharp edges.
Yeah, very interesting. And then you can also do the despoiler as a 2-pack.
Oh, there you go. See? I picked 3.
And Destro's chrome. Destro has a chrome head.
There you go.
And then you do an Orsted custom. And it all comes together. Evidence Locker Orsted. He just oversees all that.
Good question, Jarrod. So, question for the listeners, though. Let us know what your favorite subteams are, and more specifically, some of your favorite individual figures and vehicles from what we discussed. Rank them, don't rank them, what your thoughts are on the subteams is overall. Like Gary, a little bit later than Jarrod and I, so you might have different love than we do. And like Jarrod, you might have caught them later on in life and realize how nice they were. So that brings us to the next segment, which is our last segment, Military Surplus.
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
Here at the Outpost, on each episode, besides discussing the toys, comics, and cartoons of the highlighted year, we discuss a peripheral item related to G.I. Joe. Today, we're going to discuss some stickers. Back in the 80s, who didn't like stickers? 3djoes.com has 15 different sets listed. On the previous cartoon episode, we discussed 5 of the 15 sticker sets. Today, we're going to discuss the next 5 sets. And I think it's going to be interesting getting thoughts and opinions from a few different guests that I had when I had Jason Keene and my brother on last time. We remembered them, but getting your guys' thoughts is going to be interesting. Jarrod and Gary, let's get started on the first set from 1985, which are rolls of stickers for the sticker machine, which looks like an application device. So I don't know if you guys remember. So all these were rolls of stickers, and if you can see on the packaging, you put them in there, and then you roll it along, and it would apply them. I vaguely remember those, and I bet my mom or my wife have those for their scrapbooking now, or something like that now. They probably had Transformers and He-Man and all these other ones too. So, you guys ever remember seeing these back in the 80s?
What this reminds me of is my dentist's office. They always have rolls of stickers. You know, you get your teeth cleaned or whatever, and it's like, oh, thanks for stopping by, just to get over that fear. And just like, you get to take a sticker or two, or, oh, I don't know why. It just keeps going. Just keep peeling.
Oh, no, I got a bunch of stickers.
Now, these were obviously all box art or package art from the figures.
These stickers are cool because let's be honest, we talked about this, Jim, like the first time we ever recorded together, I think like the box art on G.I. Joe is unstoppable. So these are fantastic. But like for the listeners at home, if you can't picture them, I want to say they're like, if you mentioned this, Jim, I apologize, but they're not large. They're like 1 inch by 1 inch square. They're
not very big. And listeners, as I mentioned previously on other shows, we do put pictures up on the YouTube channel of all these items that we're talking about. Of course, you have the internet, so you can look that up. But if you want to look at it while we're talking about it, go to YouTube and at LONGBOX CRUSADE YouTube channel, and you can see what we're talking about. All right. Any other thoughts on this? These are, like I said, they're box art. They're the package art, so they're pretty basic.
Have you in all your toy, or Gary, have you guys ever seen these? Like someone selling them at a toy show, like as an unopened pack or something? Okay, just wondering. They're shaking their heads no. I forgot there's an audio medium. Yeah, everybody's shaking their head no.
I've seen stickers, but not these in particular stickers. So
they're cool. I mean, I don't know what they go for, and I can check eBay while we're talking or something. But if I saw them, I'd probably drop maybe up to $20 if the package was nice. They're good looking stickers.
Any further thoughts, Gary?
No, I mean, you can't go wrong with Hector Garrido artwork.
100%. All right. The second stickers that we're going to discuss is the Stick and Go tote from Diamond Toy Maker. And this was a playset that had a 2-sided tote, 2 G.I. Joe Puffy vinyl figure stickers, 2 background stickers, and 2 sheets of magic stickers to make a scene. I wonder if this was almost like a Presto Magic type thing where you could take it off and redo them. They're $4 at KB, according to 3djoes.com. So this looked almost like a preset play set that you could put stickers on. I have never seen this until I started looking into the stickers. What are your guys' thoughts?
This kind of reminds me of that Sears missile defense playset, and just with the addition of stickers, which this would have come out when I was 5. I would have been all in on this. But it's kind of funny you mentioned the price, because adult me and maybe kid me, if would be like, I'd rather have 2 figures than this playset. I'll have more adventures with a Crimson Guard and an Alpine.
I think it was Jarrod and I were talking. We were talking about some of these these different things. For the price of this stuff, I can buy a figure. Why would I buy that when I could buy a figure? I agree with you, Gary, because I'd rather have a figure. Jarrod, what do you think?
Yeah, these definitely remind me of the Jim, you just used the word color forms.
The Presto Magic.
Yeah. And I think the color forms might have made that. We always call them color forms when I was a kid. But yeah, they definitely have that vibe. I've never seen these before. I've been doing some behind the scenes research while you guys have been chatting about. I can't find the stickers, the previous ones we talked about from the sticker machine. I can't find these on eBay. This is to an extent that makes sense though, because you got these as a kid, you're going to use the stickers, right? To find one that hasn't been opened, it's got to be super rare. It's got to be super rare. But yeah, these are neat. I was always a sucker for the color forms. I told a sad tale on Nostalgia Talk about how I bought a brand new G.I. Joe color forms from a KB at a mall in Texas, and then got distracted by the stupid bubblegum machines, and then I left it there, and I never saw it again. So anyway, that brings up that sad memory. But no, these are neat. These are really cool. $3.99 at KB, just like you said.
I do have to say, clicked on one of the pictures from 3djoes.com, and those figure stickers are pretty generic.
Oh, yeah. I just looking at it right now. Like, oh, yeah, that is bad.
That's bad. That's bad.
Oh, those are bad. Yeah.
I'm glad they documented it, that it was Recondo, because I would never in a million years have been like, that's Recondo?
I thought it was Duke.
One of them is Duke.
Okay. Yeah, those are bad, but still cool. Still, I mean, like the set itself has that great art on it. So yeah, it's nice.
I know when I was going over the first 5 sets with the previous show, when I was ranking them, one of them was because of the good package art, not the stickers. So I think that's going to be the case in some of these. All right. The third set isn't really a set, but add-ins to specially marked figures. These were the triple win game. 3djoes.com shows 24 different stickers or game pieces. These had the box art of many different vehicles, figures, and playsets, as well as a scratch-off game piece. Now, I remember these being in figures. I don't ever remember winning anything, or if I did, I didn't act on it. I do remember these being in packages. Jarrod, you remember these?
I do not remember these at all, but I'm looking at them on eBay right now. They're worth a few bucks a piece if they're scratched. If they're unscratched, I'm seeing dudes getting like upwards of $30 and $40 per piece for one. For one, if it's unscratched. If they are scratched, it looks like maybe $5 each kind of neighborhood. But yeah, I don't remember these at all. Does not ring any bell. I guess whatever toy I bought did not come with it.
What year was this? Did it say what year?
85 is what I'm seeing on eBay.
So would you have been overseas at this time?
No. We moved in 87. So I mean, it's completely possible that if it was packaged in that I just, tore past it and didn't care. I was too busy like building the set. I wonder if it's some sort of select regions or I don't know. It just doesn't ring a bell.
Gary, you have any of these or do you remember these?
I know I have a couple in my paperwork box. I haven't dug them out in years. This isn't something that I'm like actively collecting for my collection. Yeah, from what I remember, it was like a partial year 1985 promo. It was specially marked packages of G.I. Joe. There would be a sticker on the box or the card. I think it was indeed with vehicles. Like Jarrod, I probably had some when I was a kid. As a kid, it's like, I'm not going to win anything. And, just garbage and then snip out the file card and play with my figures.
Teaching kids the scratch-off game early, man. Getting them hooked early.
Yeah, I remember these, but I don't remember if I ever did anything with them or won anything. It's hard to tell.
We've talked about drugs and gambling. Are there any other addictions that we got to worry about on this episode?
I don't think there's any drinking going on later. You don't know what's in my tumbler, so All right. The fourth set is from 1986 and is a sticker calendar, a sticker book that came with 634 stickers. Some of them are related to G.I. Joe, and many are not. Because if you scroll down on 3djoes.com, the examples, you've got a lot of character art, but then there's just some ouch, pows, hearts, quiz. There's just a lot of generic stuff. So that might be 50-50. I do remember sticker books like this, though.
Oh, I remember the books. Like, the book is practically free, but, like, you just buy packs and packs. But they still make those, like, to this day. I see them at Dollar Tree. Still carries that, like, by Panini. Like, I got my son Justice League one when that movie came out just a few years ago. It's still a thing.
Gary, how about you? Did you have one of these or
didn't have one of these, but very familiar with the concept. My son is 9, so I'm very familiar with seeing these at like a Dollar Tree or Five Below. Looking through the pictures, I especially like the fact that in the stickers they have one of Timber. They took a circle, cropped out Timber from the Snake Eyes package. I appreciate that. But the other thing I want to say is, why aren't they making these every year? I would buy one every year, hang it in my office. I'd have one for my home, one for my office.
I searched for a long time to find a calendar, as you said, to put in my office at work or at my bench out in the shop. Finally found one. Codename Iowa was selling on a 2025 calendar, so I picked one up.
Well, if you're going to pick up one of these vintage 86 calendars, I've done the homework. They've had 2 sell recently on eBay. One sold for $37.50. The other one sold for $80. I'm betting the $80 one still had all the stickers intact. I bet that's the difference.
Yikes.
I bet if you have an unused one, you're probably looking down the barrel of about $80. You have one that's, used, it's probably more around the $40 range.
It's like gold. Anything before we move on to the last one, guys? All right. The fifth and final set is from Hallmark Ambassador in 1986. The packages contain 4 sheets with 9 stickers on each sheet. These stickers look like the character's package art in sticker form. This is more of what I would remember, like getting in my stocking or something from my mom or my grandma at Christmas time.
Yeah, like the Hallmark store was big in the 80s.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
As Gary said, anything with Hector Greedo art is great. And that's what this is. They just took their package art and put it on a sticker. What do you think, Gary?
I like how they shaped the explosion behind them. It's not just the generic explosion back. They kind of shaped it like Lady J's looks like a leaf. And some of them look like more like torn paper. It gives it a little variety. But overall, it's the same art as what was on the sticker roll. And it's good art. So more stickers, more places to stick them.
Jarrod.
Once again, I did the eBay homework. These are affordable. Their last guy who sold one had 3 of the 4 sheets, $10. So yeah, if this is something that you want, apparently they're not too much of a hefty ransom. They are kind of cool. They're made cooler because, like Gary was saying, the shape of the explosion behind them are more unique to each one. One thing I find interesting about this particular set is only one of the characters has the G.I. Joe logo attached to him. So he's like the flagship of this set, and they're using Flint. So interesting. They lean on Duke a lot for this type of thing, but I guess because we're moving into 86-ish for this, that they're really pushing the Flint as the face of Joe at this point, which, I approve of. I always found Duke to be a little vanilla, but yeah, interesting sort of time capsule of who they're pushing at the moment.
Well, these stickers came out in 86, but those are all 85 characters.
Yeah, I mean, Duke got introduced in what, like 83? So, yeah.
Yep, all those are 85 characters. So, a little lagging. Okay, now we've covered these 5 sets. Of the ones we've discussed, which one or two are your favorites? Jarrod.
You know, they're simple. They're simple but effective. I'm going to go with the first one we talked about, the 85 sticker machine. Little 1-inch by 1-inch, really well done box art stickers. Yeah, I'm going to go with that one.
Gary, what do you think?
I'm going to go with the stick and go tote, only because it offers a little bit more than just the box art stuff. So I like that. You know, the stick and go tote, you can put your figures in front of it and have a little mini diorama. That's
but those guys are so terrible.
You don't use those guys. And I was looking at the package while you guys were talking earlier. The stickers are peel and go. So they're like the static clean stickers.
Right. Like the color forms or whatever Jim calls them. We have 2 terms for it.
I am going to go with the triple win game stickers. I know they're just the package art, but the variety with the characters, vehicles, play sets, I like those a little bit better than the rest. All right. Listeners, as I said earlier, I will be having these up on the YouTube, or you can go to 3djoes.com and take a look at all these sticker sets. And why don't you let us know what your favorites are? And that brings us to the end of our show. Jarrod, any closing thoughts on anything that we discussed?
I just enjoyed sitting down and taking a good look at these sub teams because, like I said, especially after we get past 1989, my G.I. Joe toy knowledge starts to wane a bit, and then it really wanes in the sub team area. It's always exciting to find these, I call them oddball Joes. And so it was fun to kind of really sit down and look at them. I felt like this has probably been the most educational episode I've been on. Like I now feel a lot more familiar with the sub teams, and that's thanks to really hardcore Joe guys like you and Gary, Jim. So thanks for letting me. I basically was a tag along guy on this one, but I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Different perspective all around, because I'm not as well versed in them as Gary is, but I'm learning, and that's part of the hobby too, is just learning as you go. So Gary, thank you for joining us tonight. And do you have any closing thoughts?
Really, just to add, this was awesome being on the Outpost, hanging out with Jarrod the few times in his regular show, and then coming out here to the Outpost. This was a lot of fun. And it's really fun to talk 90s sub teams, because this is when I was really getting back into the fun of G.I. Joe. And I do have a lot of fond memories up from this era. And I love to talk and share about this with other fans. It's awesome.
Thank you again for coming on and helping teach us about some 90s Joes. Listeners, thank you for joining Jarrod, Gary, and myself for this episode of G.I. Joe Outpost. Jarrod, again, thank you for spending time discussing these sub teams and asking questions more than anything.
Yeah, I had to try to add some value. It's either that or these nuts jokes. I have plenty of both.
And if our listeners wanted to contact you, where can they find you?
I am at Yard Sale Artist on X, Facebook, or Instagram. It's all at Yard Sale Artist. What about you, Gary?
I'm easily found on Facebook, X, and Instagram at Chaplain Joe Pod. And that's my account where I do my podcast, the Chaplains Assistants Motorpod.
Which, listeners, if you have not listened to it, you should, because it's a great show. You can find me on Facebook as Jim Miel, Jimmiel. I'm also on X as Jim the Joe Junkie. That's where you can find me. So I want to thank everyone at the LONGBOX CRUSADE Network for adding and keeping G.I. Joe Outpost to their extensive line of shows. Take a listen to all the other shows that are on the LONGBOX CRUSADE on any podcatcher or on YouTube. And if you like what you hear, go to Patreon and become a Crusader Club member, where you get all the access. Join us next time as we discuss the G.I. Joe Marvel comic issues 28 through 30. These 3 issues continue the battle between the Joes and Cobra in the Florida swamps, and the Dreadnoks trash a military air base. So until next time, Yo Joe!
The music themes for this show are done by musical genius Joe November.
Please check out his SoundCloud at Josephline99. That's Josephline 99. You will not regret it.
Outtakes. I hit record so I don't forget.
I love how I said I'm going to shut up so you can do a show right when you hit record.
Yeah, right.
Okay, we're going to discuss the G.I. Joe and Cobra sub-teams chronologically from 1990 to 1992, with the exception of Ninja Force, because screw Ninja Force. Actually, I don't know why we've accepted. Probably just makes for too many figures for one episode. So we'll cover Ninja Force at a later date. Waiting for Jim to nod his head to confirm this.
If you would read the next line.
Oh, I got to keep. I told you I haven't read this yet. All right, no, here we go. That was a good professional read, and I don't like it because it's making us look bad, Jim. I can't remember what it's called. How can I remember the pilot? I can't remember the name of the vehicle. You know what? This how we make the
Goofer.
This is how we make the show interactive. You know, in our show, we're always like, "Hey, Gary, comment and let us know what it's called." So
I'm sorry, I'm not.
Gary, get in the comments.
So until next time, this is the first time.
Okay,
this is the first time.
I'm sorry, I should have interrupted you. Let you finish that, but I was like, I thought this was the second time. My bad.
The second time is like what, 2 issues later?
It's not far in the future.
No, it's almost like, did they do this? No, just write about it again.
Jim sells drugs, by the way, Gary.
No, I don't. Okay. If G.I. Joe is a drug, then yes, that's what I found.
Then yes, I'm a pusher all day.
Plastic crack.
Outtakes.